On Monday afternoon, the Dorito Pope descended from upon high, carrying with him the tablets soaked in Mountain Dew to proclaim which of our beloved pieces of digital entertainment released in 2024, one big asterisk aside, would be recognized for their greatness or perceived greatness on December 12th, a little over 1 month from today. What exactly would be recognized by the esteemed Academy of Games Journalists? What would be ordained to be the game of the year from the year that was festoon with bomb after bomb after bomb? It was kind of an interesting set of announcements because, in all honesty, pretty good set of choices if we're being completely honest, because you take a look at that game of the year list and bro, it's actually diverse, and in the best sense of the word, not like, you know, chicks with dicks kind of diverse. You've got a platformer, an indie game, the most popular game of the year, super autistic RPG, the obvious game of the year winner, and then of course you've got some DLC for a game that released in 2022. How exactly do you make that work? Well, follow me on this one for a second, because yeah, the Game Awards confirms that expansions, DLCs, remakes are eligible for awards, including Game of the Year, which we're going to run through the different categories, at least the ones that I care about. There's some like esports and personalities. I don't recognize any of the names that are on there, so I'm not going to waste my time or anybody else's time figuring out who they are. And then also reminding, oh yeah, Influencer of the Year was also won by Boogie2988. So don't exactly hold these awards or any rewards, especially in 2024, in high regard. These nominations, like, bro, nobody cares about this stuff. Like the Oscars, the Emmys, the Tonys, the Grammys, they have been a complete and total disaster for a long time. Like, their viewership has been falling off a cliff as they have decided to get more and more boutique as years have gone on. Like, when was the last time, right? And this isn't, nor is this an appeal to popularity by any means, but when was the last time people actually sat around and watched the Oscars and cheered for a movie that they actually seen, instead of some art house, fart sniffing, second look masterpiece? Like, the last time that I can remember a film walking away with, you know, best picture, and it also being the most popular, profitable, and well-deserving best picture Oscar, might be Return of the King. Honestly, and we're talking, what, 2004? Like, it's been a minute. Like, there's been some popular and some well-deserving Best Picture victories in recent years, I'm sure of it. But so much of these award shows, it's just all stuff that we're told is very good. But in reality, like, outside of just sheer habit, nobody watches this stuff anymore. And especially as we've gotten more accustomed to the opinions of the Hollywood elite, fewer and fewer people are tuning in for what used to be a quick peek behind the curtain as to the lives of the Hollywood rich and famous. As for the Game Awards, though, it's been less about the awards. This is the 10th anniversary of this nonsense. Their methodology behind handing out these awards never really been all that transparent, so that's why, yeah, them making the announcement that this was released. I seen a little bit of this prior to the announcement that Shadow of the Erdtree would be eligible to get the nod for Game of the Year instead of just simply being DLC or Expansion of the Year, which would normally be where it would be. But they released the little announcement that, yeah, okay, the Game Awards recognize that many games are ongoing services that evolve over time with new content, features, and improvements. Games released in previous years are eligible in all award categories, so long as the jury feels their inclusion is merited due to new content, improvements, or service updates, expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs. Remakes and remasters are eligible in all categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. Factors such as newness of the content and its price/value should be taken into consideration. So yeah, if you have a sizable expansion come out that is, for all intents and purposes, its own standalone experience, in the case of Shadow of the Erdtree, that was very much it, because it was a 20-30 hour experience in and of itself, not as long as Elden Ring is, but much larger than several other comparably sized experiences out there. So yeah, that would definitely qualify under their current recategorization. But then also at the same time, I was hearing a bunch of people talking about, okay, cool, you want to give the nod to Shadow of the Erdtree and say that it's eligible for all of the categories this year because that's when the DLC released. why isn't Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty expansion being recognized for that? And oh, why is it in previous years something like No Man's Sky was never getting another look at it? It's almost like, and follow me on this one for a second, it's almost like the Game Awards wanted to put something like a Star Wars Outlaws or even a Dragon Age Veilguard in that spot, had it all nice and ready to go for a Western developed game to be in there, but then just decided, oh god, we better put an indie title in there, and we better make an exception for the DLC, because if they didn't have to release that clarification, you knew that they wouldn't have. But you can see it all right there. Astro Bot comes out of Sony, Japan. Black Myth Wukong comes out of China with Game Science. Metaphor ReFantazio, Studio Zero, Atlas, Sega, all on Japanese fronts. Same with Rebirth, same with Shadow of the Erdtree. The only one that is an exception is Balatro, and that was made by one single Canadian guy somewhere out there. Local thunk, great for him. Okay, I hear wonderful things, and here's the incredible part about this. I hear fantastic things about every single one of those games. Obviously, you hear me sing the praises of Rebirth on a consistent basis, and yeah, out of everything that I see right there, that is the one that is definitely deserved of Game of the Year. But if it doesn't win, am I going to cry about it? Absolutely not, because these awards mean nothing. Everybody tunes into it to see what the new announcements are going to be. But all things considered, yeah, this list of Game of the Year nominations, everybody was talking about it in the lead up to this. It's like, okay, there were going to be two titles that were going to be severely snubbed. One being Stellar Blade, which is kind of interesting because that game came out in April, and then by May, everybody was done talking about it because there was mixed messaging from Shift Up. And also, when everybody was done in the aftermath, when the honeymoon period for that one was done and dusted, it was like, yeah, it's kind of linear. The mechanics were a little bit sloppy. The open world stuff didn't really start to develop at the end, and the story was, holy Christ, was that stupid. But other than that, you know, pretty fun. It was basically Black Myth Wukong did everything that Stellar Blade did, just better, but with more body hair. That was about it. But yeah, Black Myth Wukong, it was supposed to be snubbed by this, right? Which, yeah, Geoff Keighley, the Dorito Pope, didn't, but Kotaku and them covering the story, oh yeah, they definitely, they tried their damnedest, right? Because as you can see, it's in there because, well, I guess what is like Kotaku down to like 3 people at this point in time. 2 people got laid off, and Alyssa Mercante, trust me, bro, she definitely left of her own volition and didn't have her shit tossed out on the street. Definitely, that's the case. But clearly, they also lost not just the senior editor, but the copy editor as well, because you have the Game of the Year nominations as they're categorized right there. This was pulled from an earlier screenshot. They have since, you know, updated this to better reflect the actual nominees, but as you can see, they're very much missing one. They only have 5 games detailed right there, but one is also, you know, a portmanteau of 2 of those games right there, obviously, I would think. And, you know, this doesn't add to it, but it also kind of, you know, adds to my tinfoil hat theory that, you know, Balatro and Black Myth Waking, they were late stage inclusions into the list because they couldn't. Okay, even Geoff Keighley's delusional Kojima lapping ass couldn't come around to the idea that they could nominate Veilguard for anything, and that's not necessarily the case because it got one inclusion, kind of the same one that Star Wars Outlaws did. Boy, their menus sure are nice. But let's take a look at this, because I'm actually reasonably impressed, as much as I can be for mainstream journos, right? So you got the Game of the Year list, and yeah, I heard great things about Astro Bot. Balatro is like the indie game sensation, the biggest indie game that I have seen in a very, very long time. Like, it's up there in terms of popularity. Stardew Valley and fucking Minecraft, if we're being completely honest. Like, it is a phenomenon. I really don't know if it's Game of the Year worthy. Hey man, it's very simple. What it does is fantastic. It's highly addictive. It's just normally in these categories, in the landscape of Game of the Years, would it be included? I don't really think so. Doesn't say it's not deserving of it. I'm just saying, I'm kind of seeing what's up there. But yeah, Black Myth Wukong, of course. And that's one of those games that, yeah, after the 2.4 million concurrent players, people have still been trickling in on that. And now that people are going to have more time towards the end of the year, I could see that one be a second look gem. And Metaphor ReFantazio, hear nothing but great things about that. And then Shadow of the Erdtree, that's probably the most negative one that I've seen from the people that were, you know, complaining about my difficulty and stuff about that. And then also I can point you in the direction of a very good video by a recurring guest on EFAP, Theo. He did a fantastic, it's like a 2-hour long video on why the mechanics are borked and how, you know, FromSoft is just doubled down on the worst mechanics that plague a combat-heavy gaming experience, but through a poor camera and lackluster mechanics, it has overall hampered the experience that has been falling off for several releases. But all in all, perfectly acceptable list of Game of the Year nominations. But yeah, innovation in accessibility. Yeah, you take a look at this. It's like basically this is all of that goofy ass menus where you can turn on all of the crap that, you know, journalists love, because you can essentially make the game a hand-holding simulator with some dialogue. And as you can see right there, the Veilguard, that's their only nomination, because yeah, their menu system, and I've seen a couple of people play it, it is quite expansive, and it's so expansive to a point where yeah, you can turn off environmental hazards because, oh, that needs to be a cognition accessibility option, and several other fundamental game changes there. But Diablo 4, that being, it's also, you know, a very scant number of nominations there, that's a big thing. It's like it's a mainline Diablo game and it's not getting consideration for anything. That's kind of crazy. And Star Wars Outlaws, one of the very, very few, and again, it also had a fairly verbose menu system again. So yeah, if you're gonna have these technical categories, yeah, I guess that totally makes sense. That's about the only thing that you can say for Veilguard, Outlaws, and oh yeah, The Lost Crown, a game so good that they had to disband the studio after it was released. Thereby you can make more changes than you can competently interact with the game. But moving along, okay, best action adventure game, all of these seem to check out. Like Silent Hill 2 beating the rap of Bluebird Team, putting out something that a lot of people like. Okay, the worst that I hear about that is that it's a middling experience. Nobody said that they had a bad experience with it. So the overall majority of people were out there saying, you know, pretty damn good. Okay, in any other year, even though this is an incredibly soft year, could get nominated for Game of the Year, and it might be by some outlets, but the rest of it, it's like Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom should probably take it, or Astro Bot for sure. So best action adventure game. And whoever did the graphic design for these announcement posters, like, bro, you can't put the URE on adventure, you can't squash the text a little bit, you can't size it down a little bit so you don't have Advent your game. Like, what are you doing down here? But anyways, yes, best action game. All of those seem to make sense. Yeah, like Space Marine 2, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade. There you go. You get your nomination right there. You know, Black Myth Wukong and Black Ops 6, which I hear is, you know, just another Call of Duty game. I've checked out of the series for a long time, but all of those were well regarded for their gameplay. So absolutely appropriate nominees right there. It's just unfortunate that Helldivers 2 fell off so hard, because in the early stages of this year, it was very much in the running, yeah, for Game of the Year, but didn't end up working. Best Adaptapt Ion. Oh, right, yeah, cool. And to be completely honest, to see something like, you know, Fallout, where no, it was great because everybody's supposed to be retarded, and the way that you win the game of capitalism is by nuking all of your potential customers. Hey, Knuckles, I actually didn't hear a goddamn thing about that. Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft, bro, it should be nominated for most egregious thing that happened to Tomb Raider in 2024, and it might not even win that, but Arcane's not even out yet. There's still one more arc, and oh boy, the drop-off on that has been pretty fantastic from season 1, but I digress. But Like a Dragon Yakuza, something else I haven't heard anything about, to be completely honest. But this is supposed to be about video games, and you're talking about other media. Tell me that you're jealous, or that you want to be making what you think is more respectable media than video games, without telling me you want to make more self-perceived prestigious media. Most anticipated game, which I don't even know how you properly categorize this, but yeah, Metroid Prime 4 or Grand Theft Auto 6. Monster Hunter Wilds is coming out in February, but yeah, you know, Prime 4 has been teased for hell as long as I can remember, and Grand Theft Auto 6, we're waiting, and we're going to continue to wait. But does anybody really care about the life and times of an Amazon driver? Yeah, I don't think so. And Ghost of Yotei, oh boy, quite a few problems with that one, but moving right along. Now, best art direction. Like, okay, you got some artsy-fartsy indie game in Neva, but the rest of that stuff, like, I personally don't like From Software's aesthetic, like the whole nihilism, dying world stuff. It just doesn't sit with me. That's mostly a big contributing reason why I'm not a big Souls-like guy. But Astro Bot, like, it's cool the way that they comport all of the different legacy Sony IPs to have, you know, the Astro Bot aesthetic, but is that really the best that the industry has to offer in terms of art direction? But yeah, Metaphor Refantasio, it's an Atlas game and kind of the style of Persona, and Black Myth Wukong looks fantastic. But you're telling me if that's the standard, if that's the best looking game on this list, there's a reason that the PS4 or the PS5 Pro isn't exactly moving units, because graphics no longer sell games. Best audio design. Okay, Rebirth, like beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like with my setup, I got surround sound, and you hear every slash, every bullet that Barrett's firing on the back line. It's pretty fantastic. You'd think if Hellblade 2 was actually a game that people liked, it might do something better, because the first one, I heard, and pun not intended, that was a game worthwhile to either play with headphones or in a surround sound situation, because, you know, it deals a lot with mental illness and all that stuff, and, you know, you hear those lingering voices in the back of your mind. It's like, yeah, cool, good use of that one, but, like, Astro Bot? Really? Again, kind of light on good games coming out in 2024, huh? Best community support. This one right here is hilarious, bro, because you got Baldur's Gate 3, which a game that came out last year and has been in early access for how long? Interesting that gets nominated this year. Final Fantasy 14, again, not exactly a banner year for their community support, especially with their most recent expansion. Fortnite, they actually do pretty good community outreach. Okay, No Man's Sky, same thing on that one. But then Helldivers 2, who publicly had multiple meltdowns from their community managers, who had to fire a few of their community managers. They're up for best community support. I don't even know what to say on that one. That's absolutely insane that they would get nominated. That's probably the most egregious nomination so far. But content creator, yeah, I don't even know, man. Like, I don't know who should be up there. I don't know any of those people. Best of luck to them. There's a VTuber, sure thing. Best indie game debut. I've seen that Animal Well around a few times. I think I heard decent things about that. Manor Lords, heard a few things about that. But then, yeah, of course, Balatro. It's kind of a phenomenon. Esports athlete, esport game, yeah, don't really know, don't really care. Those have been games that have been out forever. Like, you got Counter-Strike 2 getting nominated, Dota 2, Valorant, League, Mobile Legends. Okay, cool, I'll take your word for it. But all of that stuff, I know it's hyper popular, along with the esports team. Don't know, don't care. Moving right along. Best family game. Interesting how Nintendo is basically dominating this. And then, yeah, of course, Astro Bot over the top. And this Plucky Squire. Interesting. But best fighting game, I find this to be funny. Okay, cool. You want to use that justification, right, for the DLC stuff. It's like, Street Fighter 6 had a complete season come out this year, had very important and groundbreaking crossovers with SNK, with Terry coming along, and Mai getting announced for next year. Wouldn't you think that that would end up fitting the mold for best fighting game, given it was also incredibly well received at EVO as well? But no, not this time around. Again, that's another mark, at least I will consider it, in the column of break glass in case of emergency, because everything else came out this year, right? Like Marvel's, Fighting Collection, MVC, Fighting Collection, got announced and releases here. Multiverses, it's been in early development for a little while, but it came out this year and fell off completely hard. Yeah, Tekken 8, one of the best performing games and one of the most consistently played games this year. I think Sparking Zero, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, ended up debuting higher than everything else, but holy shit, man. That thing's successive weeks, fell off harder than a Marvel movie, but it's not to speak about the quality of the game. It's just those Dragon Ball games are kind of disposable, if we're being completely honest. So yeah, that's where I find it to be very interesting there. But fighting game of the year, I mean, it's got to be Tekken 8, right? But anyways, yeah, best game direction, which this right there just screams, oh, please, we want to be taken seriously as an art form, because I don't even know what to say, because you got all of your game of the years and you just want to have best direction, because the Oscars has best director, right? That's normally a precursor to who's going to win best picture, and that's what we have right here. So I don't even know what to say, man. Like, Naoki Hamaguchi did a great job with Rebirth. That's about all I can say on that one. I don't know any of the names behind the rest of that stuff, except for guy behind FromSoft seems to know how to run a competent studio. Don't really know what that matters for in the long term, and I'd love to see the justification for that. But games for impact. Now this one's very important, because here you have all your touchy-feely lesbian simulators, which is about the only time that you're going to see. And as you can see right there, Tales of Kenzara Zao, a game that was so successful that the studio closed down, and about the only time, and the only time that a Sweet Baby Inc. connected game got a nomination. its only nomination, a game with 9 people currently playing it. I would imagine that those numbers are about to go right through the roof. The best indie game, which I thought we already went through on that one, but yeah, you got Balatro, Lorelei, and the Laser Eyes. Didn't hear about that one at all, but yeah, let's be completely honest, man. Indie games are the future, especially the way that Western development companies are going. But best mobile game, yeah, Balatro's on just about everything. PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PC, Steam, Android, Apple. It's everywhere. So to say that that's a mobile game, I guess it's technically true because it's on mobile platforms, but is that fair to monopolize the spot? Don't know for sure. Best multiplayer. I mean, yeah, all of those make sense. I don't really think that anything is being snubbed on that one because all of the big quote-unquote controversial games of the year were actually single-player experiences, which is very interesting. So yeah, you got Super Mario Party, which I don't know what kind of a sadist out there, would want to play a Mario Party with 3 other random people. That sounds like a misery simulator if I've ever heard it. But Tekken 8's netcode was pretty fantastic. Helldivers 2, yeah, at one point in time, the biggest thing going. Hell, the game's launch weekend, what was it? Ended up crashing the servers because over 400,000 people wanted to check it out. Black Ops 6, it's like, yeah, it's a Black Ops game that's functional. Or it got a lot of nostalgia, and I can't believe we're at the 6th iterations of things with people with straight faces. But Space Marines too, people love that stuff. The people who play it love it. But best narrative, here's something that might actually shock you on this one, okay? I'll be completely honest. Like ReFantazio, I hear Infinite Wealth, another Yakuza game that's, really solid. Hellblade 2 is just boring as fuck. And Silent Hill 2, I heard that it's stuck very true to a story that people have a lot of reverence for. But Rebirth, for as much as I love the story, bro, it doesn't start until like 3/4 of the way through the game, 2/3 through the game. Like, when it does kick in, it is awesome. It's one of the best stories ever. But it takes a while to get there. So yeah, if it doesn't win narrative, I'm not going to cry that much. But it's like wafer thin to begin with. It's got a lot of good character stuff. I don't want to spoil too much of it because I still have lofty plans of doing a big video on it. But if they're taking everything in totality when it comes to character moments, world building, and then of course plot over the top of it, or that's the approach that they want to go on that, then yeah, I could see Rebirth winning best in narrative. But if they're just simply going plot, it doesn't really deserve it because you're chopping off a third of the game that is just, follow the guys in the black robes. Not until the, what would that be, 4th area that you get to at the tail end of the main quest there, where the plot really starts to kick in. Anyways, best ongoing game, it's like, okay, cool. That's where Erdtree could have been. Could have taken that one. That could have been your DLC category. Like, bro, I don't even know what to tell you because you got just a bunch of games that are right there. But best performance, I mean, you've got Keighley from Star Wars Outlaws, who was bad, categorically awful. Life is Strange, bro, don't make me sick to my stomach. Silent Hill 2, I've yet to watch any gameplay on it. I don't know how well Luke performs, okay. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 chick, it's like, well, if it, she's as good as she was in the first one, that's pretty well deserved. But okay, if you're only going to nominate one person from Rebirth, you went with Aerith's voice actress, like, I don't know, maybe that's the one that you could get to show up because the obvious nominee, Tifa, Britt Baron, like, she deserves that, okay? She gives everything to that performance. It's fantastic the entire way around. Barrett's voice actor, I forget the guy's name, but he's awesome in it, and he goes through the entire range of emotions. Cody Christensen, the guy who voices Cloud Strife, amazing. Max Middleton, okay? Max Middleman plays Red 13, and he's got quite a varied performance. If you know, you know, and if you don't worry about it, because he's fantastic in that. But Aerith is probably about the most stilted performance. It's not bad by any means, but it's definitely the lesser of the main cast. Like, hell, I would nominate Kate Sith's voice actor over Aerith. Like, that's a bad nominee right there. Okay, that's a real bad nominee. It's not like she was the worst, but when you got Britt Baron right there as Tifa, it's like I don't even know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. That was bad. Best RPG. Yeah, there's Dragon's Dogma 2. Remember how that one was the big hotness from a bunch of people out there? But yeah, that's about the only time that it gets a look. Kind of crazy on that one. Best score and music. I mean, I could gush a little bit more about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I mean, if Square wasn't so litigious about striking down anytime anybody wants to share any of their excellent music, like I've got the soundtrack, it's like 7 discs or something like that, and all I need to do is say one word to you, and you're gonna know that it's the best score of the year. Gongaga. There you go. What would I pick as my favorite song? The best piece of music in Rebirth? Me, Gongaga. Sim strategy game. sports, VR, AR. Yeah, I don't really care about the rest of that stuff because honestly, I like me a good strategy game. But I'll wait and see what Civ 7 looks like next year. But honestly, when the day does come around, I won't be that surprised if there are some perceived slights that are out there. Okay, because you already see the game journal cope, and it's been a minute. It's been a long minute since anybody gave these guys credibility. Okay, and they've been seething over Wukong for a long time because if you recall, okay, now because of their failed extortion attempt on Game Science, they had IGN run some hit pieces on the studio, or there's a bro culture that's over there, and they're like, nah, tell your story walking, bro. We got millions of copies to move on this one. They're like, shucks, our old tactics don't work. And it's like, yeah, they haven't worked for a long time. But on the night, yeah, there's probably going to be some upsets. There's probably going to be some interested people, but more or less, everybody's just going to be talking about the trailers and the games that are announced. Okay, I hope to be talking about, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth PC port, but that's neither here nor there. But the cope that is around Black Myth Wukong getting its apt recognition. Oh, it's the lowest rated game to the Game Awards Game of the Year nomination. Yeah, but people love that game and critics hate it because they didn't try to stick a chick in it and make her lame or gay. Because here's the thing, right? That comparison down there at the bottom, it tells you all you need to know about that one. The user score high on that one. And it's not like an 81 is anything to turn your nose up at. Be honest about that. If we weren't using such a skewed system where 7 is the midpoint and 10 is just referential for a game that, I kind of really like. An 8 on 10? Yeah, that would be a fantastic game. You would only get a handful of those throughout the year, and anything greater than that would be noteworthy throughout the year. But yes, we see what you applaud, so we don't really care when you cry or take note of what you deride. Black Myth Wukong is loved by the people. It's a lot of people's game of the year for a multitude of reasons. But honestly, when the awards come around December 12th, there's going to be some interesting decisions because as you see right here, you have your lists of your lists of jurors. Okay, according to the official website of the Game Awards, the opinion of the fans counts in the selection of the winners. It's like, okay, cool. The entire premise of that award show is supposed to be, it's time to return gaming back to the gamers. Time to have their voice reflected as what could end up being a celebration of the industry. But in actuality, yeah, it's just the same insular thinking that gets rewarded time and time again. But as you can see, but their value of the vote is much smaller than it is for the jury. Thus, the jury's decision counts for 90% compared to the 10% of the popular vote, which, you could go ahead and waste your time voting for any of the nominees that are there, but realize that the likes of Barely Funny, IGN, the LA Times, Pride, what the hell is Touch Arcade, What's Good Games, MinMax, VentureBeat? Bro, if you wanted to have some kind of air of legitimacy, having Polygon, PC Gamer, IGN kind of makes sense. Game Rant, I guess, a little bit. If you wanted to do an outreach when it comes to prominent influencers, Jeff Gerstmann, who, very famously took a stand against the editorial practices of, I think it was GameSpot, when he ended up giving a scathing review to, Kanan Lynch? Back in the we're going into ancient history that time, but he was also the asshole who founded, Giant Bomb and whatever they've become since he left, but he does nothing online. You take a look at his view counts, and bro, I do better on some videos, but I guess I don't have that. I don't have that legacy appeal, the likes of which, former IGN staffers over there at Kinda Funny, who most recently sold whatever was remaining of their credibility to put out cringy videos like, guys, please, you gotta vote for Kamala. Please, you gotta vote for Kamala. Why don't you vote for Kamala? Come on, guys. Are you man enough to vote for a woman? That's who has a say in this absolute clown show. So that's why I'm not really going to be that pressed if any of the games that you see right here end up getting robbed. If Rebirth doesn't sweep everything, including best sports and VR game, I'm not going to be all that pressed. If they don't walk away with a game of the year that doesn't diminish its quality in my eye at all whatsoever. The fact that, non-woke games have got their due, Stellar Blade and Wukong, and also Rebirth. Does anybody remember the beach scene? No, of course not. No, they're too busy running around going, the Square Enix stock is down because they wanted to make Tifa's boobies smaller. It's like, can you point to anywhere on there where they actually said that the department was there for that? No, you idiots just want to run with headlines, of course. But in actuality, December 12th is going to be a glorified trailer show like it always is, with a couple of awards sprinkled in. Are we going to get the old Bill Clinton rabbi kid again? Probably not. Are we going to get anything noteworthy over the top of it? Could have a couple of cringe segments with Geoff Keighley. But all in all, it's a big, glorified circle jerk for insiders in the gaming industry masquerading as a celebration, when in reality, this is going to be the entertainment space first a big test to see if they're going to have the opportunity to melt down for the public and go, Orange Man's bad and I can't believe so many people voted for him. But I don't actually think that'll be the case, because once again, you take a look at the list of the nominees for the prominent games, not a lot of Western representation. And I think that's for very good reason. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.